spit something out on display, it's kind of, you don't know what effect it might have.
I was talking about the artist can control the viewer to some extent.
Yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it? That
But we can ask ourselves, what do we want the viewer to receive here? And well, you know, are we engineering that or not? You know?
Yeah, because sometimes it doesn't, what you plan doesn't quite something else close across, and that's interesting process.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's why art persists, I think, because it never answers all the questions. So it remains this fantastically open-ended thing that we will continue to do. It's better you saying what is the message, and there is a kind of message, but then there's another message that you probably can't explain.
Yes,
which is why we'll continue to make stuff. You know?
Have a performance, because I can see how much further you could take it. I'm for the time being quite happy they are stills, because they started off as an idea of a painting on a wall or a tattoo, and that doesn't necessarily move, but you could explore it much further. So for this exercise, you know, I think I've just sort of explored what I wanted to do, and then yes, you can take that further.
You could even do it on public building. Oh yeah, put projections on. Oh yes, that's right, that's been done before. Elizabeth, when you were making the projections, going back to Sarah's idea of moving the projections around the room, did you try them in different places around the walls?
Oh yeah. I mean,
so was there a specific place where you felt it looked better than another place?
Yes, well I went into the room on 2 different days. So the first day was very much getting to know the room and what would work best. So I had made a huge sort of selection from after day 1 to see where they would prefer, where they would suit best, and that's when I went and again made a plan for myself and said, okay, that image I would like to see that there, so that I had a much more of an idea, much more targeted idea of what I wanted to do with the images.
It's like the inside of me.
Can I ask you technical questions? Did you use iPhoto or the on the computer? Because I'm very interested, because I find this quite difficult, and I just wonder how you actually, what you used.
Well, I just downloaded my images into the computer, actually on iPhoto, and then opened them up in Photoshop. And I'd actually made sure that every image that I was on day 2 when I went back in there, and I was quite more certain what I wanted to do with the images, I took about 5 shots of each image, and some were underexposed and some were overexposed. Because of course if you project images, the room needs to be relatively dark, and the images are very light, so it's not that easy to print that off in a good way, because it's either too light, the image, or the room is too dark. So then I sandwiched in Photoshop, you can put these layers together, and I started basically working on the areas that were too dark. I rubbed down so that the underlying image, which was lighter,
You
came
manipulate
through.
it.
And I made a combination of the different exposures. So obviously they're quite heavily photoshopped images, the end results, because they would have not worked as a straight shot.
But I think Angela's question is probably, did you you probably built and played with all these images in Photoshop, didn't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
So Photoshop is probably the key thing for doing this kind of thing, because it's all about layers, so each image can have a layer and you can alter
To
things.
create images, it was important to have Photoshop, but also to print them out. Before I sent them out, I needed to work on them in
Quite a lot,
Photoshop,
yes.
so without it, yeah.
And then you had to find a place that would process them for you as you wanted.
Yeah, I
That's
found
not
it
easy,
quite a
is
good.
it?
No, Bruce Tanner gave me a really good
Yeah.
address, but I had to obviously make sure that they were all, the screen was calibrated, that they were all ready to be sent, because they don't manipulate the images for you. Some places might work on the images if you so want to, but you have to pay for that. But I made sure that all the color coding was all correct before sending it out. And
There's a whole load of technical
it
stuff.
was quite technical, yeah.
Gosh.
I think this is great. I think this is a really successful project. I think it's exciting. I think it's got tons of mileage. I think you could become a globally famous light artist doing things here, there and everywhere, on major public buildings, in raves, in anything you like, What about that? Did you ever get involved in the rave scene?
Well, 20 years ago.
But then you have very, I've only been to a couple of those things, but you get very sophisticated light shows going on. With all kinds of lasers, and it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, sure.
Did you go to that, Roger? Is that
I've been to a club that I don't remember actually.
But it's this thing where art and life intersect, is it art, is it just entertainment, does it matter, this is in that area. You could be working in retail, you could be working in entertainment, you could be working in the Tate Modern.
I was thinking also projecting in churches, which are dark spaces.
Go for the residence in Durham Cathedral. Ask some residents in Durham Cathedral. Happens every year. Fantastic. Fantastic gig.
My mates just asked me to do projections for his band, so to try and animate some of those things, if you're interested.
I did a projection for a band once years ago with old-fashioned slides which we painted opaque and then scratched designs on and just banged them through a slide projector. It was great.
I like them as photographs though. I think they work really nicely, and they worked really nicely in the show as well with your model thing.
Yes, they
were.
My 3D work definitely was part of the same concept.
Yeah, I like that. They looked really good together.
Yeah.
And I think that you could go further with this, but also you could paint them. I think you don't have to stick to the projection. I think that
it's a kind of language I like to use, but you could use it in different ways. It doesn't have to be projections necessarily.
Percentages you're painting, you're saying that.
Well, I just think everyone's getting a bit stuck on this.
Well, it's not just painting, is it? So it's these constructions she makes, which are the same things, but as 3Ds, as objects.
Yeah, I like those a lot.
I agree with you. You can work on all fronts with this material, together, separately, whatever.
I don't think you should get involved in the rave scene, though.
I agree with that.
Really bizarre.
It's a nice idea.
Okay, let's move on. Looking at Sarah's